Hi, Paul. Thank you very much for joining us today. Many people might remember you from GT Gold, which was acquired by Newmont in 2021, and now you're the CEO of Faraday Copper. Can you give us the backstory on Faraday and how you got involved?
Yeah, hi Jimmy. Good to be here today. And certainly, after GT Gold, I teamed up with Russell Ball, who was former CFO at both Newmont and Goldcorp. And we were looking at opportunities. We got introduced. Actually, the Faraday used to be called Copper Bank, and it had been set up like a bank to store copper assets when the copper price was low. So we got introduced to the founder. Really liked what we saw in terms of particularly the Arizona project. Went and did a due diligence over several months, and then we put a proposal together to the then board and took over the running of the company in September 2021.
And as you mentioned, the asset is based in the state of Arizona, and we've seen so many examples of where jurisdiction has been an issue with mining companies. The most recent case was First Quantum in Panama. Can you just touch on the mining industry in Arizona and let us know how robust it is?
Yeah, I mean, look, Arizona's been built on the back of mining. It produces 70% of the US's copper. It's a mining-friendly jurisdiction. There's a lot happening going on there. You've got all the major players in the world operating, whether it's Freeport, BHP, Rio Tinto. I mean, more recently, we've seen Taseko get their permits to develop the Florence project. A couple of weeks ago, the board of South 32 sanctioned the go-ahead of the Hermosa project in southern Arizona. And then we've also see Arizona Sonora delivered a PFS on the Cactus project, and Ivanhoe Electric are busy with the Santa Cruz project, also in Arizona. So very active area, a lot happening in the state.
And maybe you can just touch on the infrastructure and also the water issue.
Yeah, look, Arizona's got a great infrastructure. I mean, for us, our project is right next to the highway. There's an active rail system. There's power lines. There's actually a big new federally funded renewable energy project coming right through the valley where our project is. That's bringing solar and wind generated power from New Mexico up into Arizona and onto California. So, excellent infrastructure, also a skilled workforce. And look, when you talk about water, I guess mining as a whole is challenging around the world. You mentioned other jurisdictions where there's been problems for First Quantum, and I think as we go through this energy transition, then you're starting to put people out of their comfort zone. Their immediate response is no. So permitting, has been a challenge, I think, globally, but people are starting to recognize the connection between mining and the clean energy transition. But it's all about social license. And we're looking at going with a dry stack tailings facility, recognizing that Arizona, being able to recycle as much water as possible is key. I think more traditional style tailings are going to be more challenging to permit. So, from the offset, going with dry stack tailings and being able to, minimize water is critical going forward.
And Paul, you made a very good point about the importance of social licensing. Maybe you can just touch on what Faraday Copper is doing to maintain that relationship with the local communities.
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing exploration, you're some of the first people on the ground in project areas, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world. And so building those relationships early on, engaging with the community, starting those dialogue. We've had open houses with the local communities, and unfortunately, the two local communities right adjacent to the project, San Manuel and Mammoth, are former mining communities that were built by Magna Copper in the 1950s for the old San Manuel mine. But it's important to sort of hold people's hands through so that they understand what exploration and then ultimately the development of a project into a mine is. So that starts from the first day on the ground, really.
So let's move on now and talk about Faraday Copper and the actual resource, and maybe you can just give us the specifics, how many pounds the average copper grade is.
Yeah, so the Copper Creek project, which is our flagship project in Arizona, has got 4.2 billion pounds in the measured and indicated category. It's one of the largest undeveloped resources in the United States that's still in the hands of a junior. And we've got a grade around about 0.5% copper. We've got both open pit and underground resources. And we've got 83% of our resources in the measured and indicated category. And, it's a function of the amount of drilling that's been done on the project historically, over 200,000 meters of drilling. And that's really having all of that technical data was what de-risked the project in our eyes and motivated us to want to be involved in it.
And you've also implemented a resource optimization plan, and part of that plan was the phase 2 drilling program. Can you just touch on the results from that program?
Yeah, I'd like to take a step back firstly. And I think when we came into the project in September 21, in just over 2 years, we put together all the technical data, a geological model to support a resource update. And then on the back of the resource, we were then able to put out a PEA, which two things it did. It demonstrated economically or the potential for an economically viable project. And then importantly, it highlighted the levers that we needed to pull in terms of unlocking further value. And so one of those was our phase 2 drilling, which was post the mineral resource and the PEA. And what that showed was that we had a number of our potential open pits that were limited on data and they hadn't been drilled at depth. And so we had a program of that phase 2 drilling that highlighted extensions to the mineralization below the open pit, as well as lateral extensions. But it also showed that we were getting an increase in precious metals, particularly gold. And previously, gold had not been estimated by previous work that hadn't been assayed. So we've had a big program of assaying for gold to bring that into future resource estimates and also study work. And so from that phase 2, that's really laid the platform to our further programs that we're currently executing on right now.
And so let's talk about that. You're moving ahead with a phase 3 drilling program. How many meters do you have planned and where will the targets be?
Yep, we're underway with our phase 3 program. We've currently drilled 6,000 meters altogether. We've got between 15 and 20,000 meters of drilling. And that's focused on 3 elements, really. There's one is the open pit expansion, so that those open pits remain open to extensions. We also see the underground as well, that there's opportunity to not only enhance the grade of the underground, but expand it. And then thirdly, about making new discoveries in a really underexplored area. So if you look at all the historical drilling, 95% of it has been done in the resource, but in the district, there's been very little drilling, and we see the opportunity to make more discoveries.
And I guess that's one of the benefits about working in Arizona. You can drill all year round.
No, you certainly can. I mean, great weather. You also don't have altitude issues either.
So you touched on you want to do some exploratory drilling, and you and your team have targeted 33 priority targets. Of those targets, which ones are you going to focus on?
And what's been really exciting is, we started the campaign off with a new discovery in what we call Area 51. That's 800 meters away from the current resource. And we identified a new breccia. And maybe what I should say is there's 2 styles of mineralization on this project. One are these high-grade breccias that come to surface. They have more than 1% copper in the core of them, and then they have an outer halo of low-grade mineralization. And then we've got the porphyry style mineralization, which is a series of quartz stockworks, and that's really what relates to the underground resource. So we've been focused on near surface breccias and Area 51. We've now made 2 new breccia discoveries, Starship and Eclipse. We're seeing its own porphyry center, and there's altogether 9 breccias around there. So we're now busy testing additional breccias in that immediate resource, in that immediate Area 51. But also we've got these 2 big structures across the district that is the main fluid conduit for the breccias and the porphyries. And as I say, Area 51 is the first of 33 target areas. And so, we're busy systematically working along those structures, further testing, additional targets. And so, really exciting to be able to make that first discovery, and really supports the thesis that there's a lot more to find.
And Paul, you touched on this earlier, but another element of the optimization plan is network to improve the copper recoveries. Can you just expand on this and what it entails?
Yeah, we took the phase 2 drilling. We took samples from that and ran a comprehensive metallurgical program, which we put the results out about 3 weeks ago now. And what that showed was we were getting improved recoveries on the sulfide, as well as on the oxide. A very clean concentrate, more than 30% copper in that concentrate. No deleterious elements that will be penalty grade in a concentrate. And then also we added gold into the flow sheet. But also what we saw was that from the work in the PEA to now, we saw the opportunity to bring in a coarse grind. And so we've taken that material and we're seeing an average of between 350 and 370 microns. So being able to add in coarse grind into the flow sheet obviously allows throughput increase, and it also reduces OPEX costs as well. So that really starts to drive further value. So we've got the two components of the metallurgical work, adding that in with the exploration and adding new discoveries really starts to push value increase and throughput.
And the hope is that the gold will become an additional byproduct.
No, exactly. And we're getting between 75 and 80% recovery reporting to the copper concentrate. So certainly payable.
Paul, I want to move on now and discuss your shareholder base and also your balance sheet. And Faraday Copper has some very impressive shareholders. And I guess the one I want to ask first about is Lundin.
Yeah, no, look, great supporters, great to have those strategic holders, whether it's the Lundins, Murray Edwards, or Pierre Lassonde. When we joined the company, the Lundin family had a small holding of about 3%. And then as we took them through our business plan, what our strategy was, the opportunity here, then they participated in financings that we've done over the last couple of years and increased that holding to just over 19%. And, they're strong supporters. Great to have them on board. I think it reinforces the quality of this project.
And how active are they? Do they help out a lot on the technical side?
No, I think they've got confidence in the team, and they're generally a silent shareholder.
And do they have any operations currently in Arizona?
No, they don't. They do support the University of Arizona, and it's called the Lundin School of Mining.
And let's talk about your cash position. How much cash do you have on hand, and how will you allocate that cash in the coming year?
Yeah, we're in a fortunate position that we're well funded. We have just over $12 million as of today's date. That's sufficient to see us through towards the end of the year and deliver on our key milestones, which is one, or the main one being the 15 to 20,000 meters of drilling, and obviously the metallurgical work as well. But obviously at some point this year, I estimate that we'd need to finance again.
Paul, one of the unique features of the management team at Faraday is that you've all worked at large mining companies, and I want you to expand on how this skill set will benefit a copper exploration company like Faraday.
Yeah, great question, Jimmy. And I think the key is, we've all been involved in not only making the discoveries, taking them through the studies and building them out into mines. So we know what it takes for it to become a mine. And there's no shortcuts here. And so what it is, it's about bringing the rigor and discipline, particularly around the technical work, and making sure we've got that empirical data to make those informed decisions. I say there's no shortcuts here. And we see in the market, a lot of penalization, companies in penalty boxes because, either they got the study work, the costs wrong. And I think there's a lot of scrutiny right now around about capital costs, operating costs, company not making their budgets. And that has a negative impact, not just to us, but, across the industry. So, making sure we have the rigor and discipline. And secondly, as well, we continue to see technical failures in our industry, which doesn't help us. And so again, making sure we've got those fundamental building blocks, starting off with the geology, we've got all the geotechnical work done, all the metallurgical work that feeds into ultimately coming up with a robust study that will enable the execution of a project into a mine. And I think this is one of the things that, you know, the average investor doesn't understand, what the rigor and discipline that is needed.
And you just made mention of the fact that you want to move ahead and turn this into a mine. But what are your final plans? Do you actually want to build a mine yourself, or are you hoping to de-risk this project and then sell it to a major?
Look, it's always a challenge for a junior mining company with a sort of $100 million market cap to consider a large capital project. At this stage, our strategy is to de-risk the project technically, add further value through the drill bit, making new discoveries, and then look at some point packaging this up and exiting it onto, you know, somebody who will develop this into a mine. And I think, you know, when you look at the US and their drive to want to be, produced in the US, then, you know, we're going to have a really valuable project that will form part of that clean energy transition as we move forward.
Yes, and to that point, everybody is looking for copper to take advantage of this move into energy transition. Not only the large mining companies, but also the gold companies are also looking for copper projects, and they can't find any.
No, that's it. That alchemy, right? That you know, everyone's scrambling. I mean, I think you know, you take a step back and say, you know, that the Chinese are leading the way. They've gone around the world and gobbled up resources. They've got smelter capacity underway. They're building out that infrastructure. You know, you feel that if the West's not careful, they're a little asleep at the wheel.
Yeah.
But obviously, you know, that does bring opportunity, and you know, as we continue to advance our project and then see this clean energy or the momentum starting to move forward a lot more rapidly, then we're going to have that project ready to develop, which is exciting.
So there's a lot of benefits going for Faraday. It's in the right jurisdiction. It has a large asset with a good grade. And maybe you can just summarize again what you and your team are going to do to unlock value on this project.
Yeah, no, it's an exciting year ahead in 2024. We've got the 15 to 20,000 meters of drilling ongoing. You can expect to see more drill results coming over the next weeks and months. We've also got additional metallurgical work. And then the idea is that we'll wrap the phase 2 drilling together with the drilling that we're doing now into a new mineral resource update, and then look to update the technical study as we go into 2025.
Well, that's great. I want to thank you very much for spending time with us today and providing this overview of Faraday Copper. And I look forward to an update in the coming months.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. Great to speak to you today.